Welcome to our program on Kardec Radio.
Good evening, dear friends, and welcome to Kardec Radio. This is the 6 p.m. daily prayer, and my name is Teresa Castro. I host the Sunday 6 p.m. prayer. So welcome, everybody. And remember, I don't know you here unless you sign in. And welcome to those who are listening to this on demand. Before we have our prayer, we always have a short message that we contemplate a little bit before we have our prayer. And so this evening, the message comes out of a book called Light Ahead. Hi, Abhishir. Thank you so much for the birthday wishes. And same to you. We have the same birthday month. Lovely. So this book is called Light Ahead, and it's a compilation of messages from various spirits and all psychographed, written through Chico Xavier. And the message we're going to look at is by Emmanuel. Hello, Narciso. Welcome. Thank you for signing in. And this message is by Emmanuel, psychographed by Chico. And again, this book is a compilation of messages received by various spirits, all psychographed by Chico. And the messages are from various books. So like the message tonight is called In the Heat of the Moment by Emmanuel. And it's out of the book Religion of the Spirits, lesson number 85. So I bet it's not translated in English yet, but here we have this message in English. Hi, John DeRosa. Big hello to you again today. So in the heat of the moment, this message by Emmanuel is in reference, it's a comment to the question 646 from the Spirits book. Hi, Mark Carlos. Nice to see you. So we're going to look at the question 646 in the Spirits book, in which we will then follow up with Light Ahead book with Emmanuel's comment on this question and answer. So 646 is in the third part of the Spirits book, which is the moral laws. And it's, again, number 646. And here's the question. Does the merit of the good that one does depend on certain conditions? That is, are there different degrees of merit in doing good? And the spirits answer, the merit lies in its difficulty. There is no merit in doing good if there is no self-denial and if it costs nothing. God takes more notice of poor individuals who share their only piece of bread than of the rich who give only what is superfluous to them. Jesus told you this in the parable of the widow's mite. And we all remember the widow's mite. If you don't, you can take a look at the Gospel According to Spiritism, chapter 13, and it's item 5 and 6, where Kardec, they actually list the story out of the New Testament, and then they comment on it. But basically, it's the story of I'm sure most of you know, of Jesus was standing by the offertory box in the temple, and he was watching the people put money, and noticed some people were putting quite a lot of money. And then he noticed an old woman came, and she put like what would be equivalent to us, like 16 cents. You know, it was like, so it was a really small amount. Hi, Nora Brazil. And we're discussing the widow's mite, just refreshing our mind about that. And so Jesus calls the apostles over and he says, look, she gave more than those people putting all that money, because she gave everything of what she had to give, instead of the extra. So that's the story of the widow's mite. We were looking at question 646 when Kardec asked the spirits about merit. Does it depend? Are there conditions involved? Is there degrees of merit in doing the good? And basically the spirits answered that if there's no difficulty or sacrifice on our part, there's no merit. So now we go to Light Ahead book, and Emmanuel actually comments on that question 646 that we just read about degrees of merit. And he titles his message, In the Heat of the Moment. And again, it's a comment on question 646 from the Spirit's book. In the heat of the moment, during your experience, you said, feeling disappointed, I see nothing but evil. I can't take it anymore. I failed. I can't keep going. I've done everything I could. I don't want to talk about this anymore. I'm tired of it. It's way too hard. It's all a great disappointment. Go on if you want to. Leave me alone. I'm defeated. I don't want any trouble. This isn't my problem. I'm no angel. I give up. No more struggles. And he goes on to say, nonetheless, be aware that an overcome shadow is a door to greater light. If your friends deserted you, stay faithful to the good. If all is but affliction around you, don't be discouraged. If someone slanders you, always respond by doing the best you can. If you have fallen, get back up, renewed, and correct yourself. There is no merit in doing something if it costs us nothing. We all learn and work for days, and sometimes many years, in order to emerge victorious from one of those great moments known as crises. It's the achievement of victory in a moment of crisis that grants us broader capacities. If you're looking for a guide to follow, remember Christ and his apparent defeat. Humiliated and subdued, tortured and crucified, he returned to the world in spirit without anyone demanding it, and materializing himself divine amongst the same companions who had abandoned him earlier. Far from making reference to all previous mockery and torments, he resumed his work, saying simply, "Peace be with you, Emmanuel." So I think it's interesting that Emmanuel comments in this way in regards to merit. But I think he drives home a point. It is in that moment of crisis. It's that cracking point, so to speak. And that push, that commitment to keep going forward. It's really an exemplifying our faith. And it's interesting, all of these examples he gives, we can definitely, Jesus was a role model for all of them. He says, nonetheless, be aware that an overcome shadow is a door to greater light. And we see this not only in Jesus, but the sinners that he healed. He always said to them, go and sin no more. And in Mary Magdalene, or these wayward women who, made the turnaround. He says, if your friends deserted you, stay faithful to the good. And we see that clearly with Jesus. Not only Judas, but the fear of the apostles, and they weren't able to be by his side, except for John. If all is but affliction around you, don't be discouraged. And not only do we see this in Jesus, but Chico Xavier. He was surrounded by not only his own afflictions, but those of others, and his family didn't understand him. And, his father was always trying to get him to, the proceeds of the books. But he didn't stay discouraged, and he kept helping everyone around him. And he says, if someone slanders you, always respond by doing the best you can. And again, of course, we see this not only through Jesus, but Kardec. Kardec received a lot of heat when he started codifying the books and Spiritism. There were many people who opposed him, but he kept going. And it's interesting, his kind of push was, the people that are slandering us, they actually are bringing us support. And it is true, when we look at teachings from other books, they say, people's sentiments are always going to go to that person being slandered. So, when we think we're bringing someone down, we're actually giving them support from others. Just an interesting thing to think about. And he says, if you have fallen, get back up, renewed, and correct yourself. And again, not only do we see this in Jesus, but Paul. Paul is a great example of someone who did the turnaround and he never looked back. He just kept going. And so what both of these readings are talking about is true charity, in that, which comes down to thinking of others before ourselves. To see the bigger picture, so to speak, instead of focusing on how bad I feel or this is so hard, but to keep thinking of the bigger picture. And it's really a push for us a lot of times in different situations, because we're reminded that there's thousands of ways that we can be helpful, not just giving money, but we all have talents and intelligences and sentiments that we can share with others. And in the Spirit, the Spirit's book, it was actually in the Gospel, it said, no, everyone can do some type of service. Everyone. No one is too down and out that they have nothing they can do or lend or be helpful to others in some way. I think it's also an interesting thing of note. The Gospel points out that, yeah, sure, it would be really fine to alleviate the poverty of everybody if we could say, well, the problem is we just all need to equalize and everybody get the same amount. But he reminds us that alleviating all poverty on a large scale may not be allowed. So this is an interesting thing to realize, that everything is in God's design. But Kardec points out, even though we cannot, perhaps obliterate all of society's poverty, we can do what we can do, what is possible for us to do, what is our share. And so it's a wonderful thing to think about in how to be charitable. And especially Jesus is a great role model in that when he did resurrect, he didn't say, hey, Peter, I told you were going to deny me 3 times. Or he's like, oh, here you go again, doubting, Thomas. You don't believe unless you see. He didn't do these things. He just said, okay, guys, let's push on. Let's get back to work. And continued coaching and preparing them for spreading the gospel. So I think the thing that we can take away from this message is that we really need to give from our essence instead of our extra. And so, and especially when we think in terms of merit, that there is some sacrifice in the idea of true charity. And yeah, so I think that's a pretty, you can't really, analyze that too much. It's pretty cut and dry. So now we will go into the prayer. And so I'm going to ask you all if you'd like to join me. I would love to pray with you all. So let us close our eyes to lessen the distraction. We can connect with our breath. No need to alter it. We can just tune in and be present. We can feel ourselves and our bodies. Inhabiting the body alone raises vibration. Let us become heart-connected, heart-centered. Envision ourselves holding hands, completing a circle of love. Dear Mother, Father God, we thank you for continuing to love us, showing us the way to love ourselves and each other. Thank you for believing in us and always offering us that one more chance. May we feel this message deeply today, this message of true charity, which is based on putting others before ourselves, a true sacrifice. And we will remember there is no salvation without charity. So let us imprint this on our spirit, this consciousness of other-centered. Let us learn this so we don't need to keep learning every day about how to be loving toward others as we would want to be loved. We thank you, Master Jesus, for your guidance and for clearing the pathway for us so we may see more clearly how to reach your kingdom within. We take a moment and in true charity, remember our brothers and sisters who are in more need than ourselves. Let us send them waves of love, courage, and support, that they may experience some measure of peace in their life. Let us also consider those who we regard as more fortunate as ourselves. We also send them thoughts of love and courage, that they may remember their mission and the responsibility in sharing their wealth and talents for the good of all. We thank you for this time, that we may hear this message, so simple and yet profound. Let us go forward as beacons of light, showing the way of true charity. With respect, humility, and a blessing, we humbly ask permission to close this prayer session, and so be it. And so it is. Thank you, brothers and sisters, for joining me in this prayer time. May you have a wonderful rest of the evening wherever you are. And let us go forward in our week, trying, if just even a little bit, to consider others before ourselves. And in those times of crises, let us push on and keep doing the good. God bless. Good evening.